MBA, food tech, and biotechnology students, and many others. But I think the star of the day is going to be Mahalakshmi. So before I actually get into this fireside chat, let me ask you, how do I call you? Lakshmi, Mahalakshmi? How do you prefer? You're not audible, Mahalakshmi. I think you need to unmute yourself.
Yes. Is this better?
Wonderful.
Yes. I'm good with Maha. I'm conscious Mahalakshmi can be quite a mouthful. So, though I'm talking to food technology students, but short snacks, right? So, Maha goes, Lakshmi goes, or Mahalakshmi. I'm okay with anything.
Fantastic. So we'll call you Maha for this and also for the future. So once again, welcome to Shulini's Fireside Chat. We are bringing exciting people to take their views across India and of course our students. A very quick introduction to Mahalakshmi. Uh, she has worked across industries. She started a career with Hewitt Associates, who I have known very well, one of the best HR consulting firms in the world. Moved to Arthur Anderson, EY, and then switched to a commodity industry, Ballarpur, pharmaceuticals, Ranbaxy, technology, Airtel, and now in food, Mondelez. So my first question to you, Maha, is what a wonderful, diversified career you've had. Tell us more about it. And tell us a bit about your education. I couldn't pick it up at LinkedIn. But tell us about
Yeah.
your life story, where you grew up, and how did it feel like navigating so many different industries?
Oh, wow. Okay. So that could actually take the whole hour or more, right? But I'll try and keep it brief. I mean, I also would like to start by acknowledging folks who've actually chosen to join the call. I hope I can make it worth your while, folks. I can imagine an afternoon or that to a Friday early evening. There could be many better things to do, chill somewhere, go out, catch the latest movie, but you've chosen to attend. Appreciate it, and I can hope that this can give you at least something to take away. Quickly about myself, Atul, since you asked, well, I come from very humble beginnings. I mean, I was born and brought up in New Delhi, but was a late born only kid to a set of parents. My dad was a stenographer, and both my parents had just about finished grade 10. So I came from a background where I literally was taking tuitions to fund my education. Studied in a very simple, I of course did my physics honors from Delhi University. So a science background person, so hopefully that will make some of you smile. But I strayed out of science a little early and went and did some management. We'll talk about that if time permits in terms of pros and cons of doing some of that. Yeah, so I mean, that's my background. Went to a B school, which is not very famous. It's called IMT Ghaziabad. But I personally believe that, irrespective of where you are, if you are determined to succeed and, coming from a family background that I did come from, I wanted to make sure that any dollar that I'm putting in into fees gives an ROI to myself and my parents. And I was very keen to learn and grow. So that's quickly about me. Worked in a few industries, largely because in terms of career, I'm very driven by learning and keenness to make impact. And that has driven, how I've moved. It also says I'm an old woman who's had a few job changes, so 25, 26 years. So bear with me. But that's a quick snapshot of the why and a little bit about the personal side. And your
So you
story
look
is
very
amazing
young.
itself, right, Atul? I mean, I heard from the folks who organized this. It's great to see someone from Harvard, come back and set up a university and spread education further. So inspiring.
Thank you so much. But I have to comment on your age. You look much younger and you've got a glow. Is it the good food you eat at Mondelez?
Well, the good food that I eat at Mondelez has definitely contributed to the roundedness. The rest of it is power of technology, right? You can now beautify, as you get on camera, even if I'm jumping off a plane to get onto this call. So,
The first thing I want to ask about is a career, Maha. And the reason I'm mentioning this is because many times students think their careers are linear. You've done food tech and you want to be in food tech all your life, or you're an MBA student and you want to be in HR and you want to be in HR all your life. I believe that careers are non-linear. I believe that increasingly they're becoming interdisciplinary. I've seen personally, for example, went to IIT Kanpur. I am a failed rocket scientist. I did a BTech in aerospace, did my MBA, joined McKinsey, worked in different industries, and now I teach. So, what's your message to students? Should they uh, experiment with different businesses, keep their ears and eyes open, uh, go out choosing the careers that they believe are the best at that point of time, or do you see linear careers to be superior?
Yeah, I don't think there is a right formula, Atul. I mean, honestly, I mean, I can very gallantly say, hey, physics taught me to be analytical. I'm comfortable with numbers. I actually did my MBA in finance, by the way, and then got into consulting, business consulting, then straight into HR consulting, and then moved into a career in human resources. So honestly, I think as we so there are various styles of learning, right? Some people learn by reading and research and learning from books. There are folks who learn from talking to others. My son is one of those. He's studying law. He hates to sit with a book, but he learns a lot by watching YouTube and talking to others who've done things. So he learns a little bit more by watching and doing. So I think each of us has our own, life to shape. I would only say that I think it's you got to figure your balance individually, because if you just keep going from something or the other, it's a good idea to experiment a lot early in your career, but don't keep doing that all your life, because if you lack depth and if you only have breadth, your credibility as a senior professional would also be low. So I would say figure out what you're passionate about. It's okay to change paths midway. I think both of us now on this call, both Atul and I, seem to have done it a few times. And you guys are so lucky, right? I mean, at least when I was your age, studying, doing my grad and doing my post grad, I had very little coaching available, and no one would tell me go do a, get an industry exposure, etc. The number of people one could talk to was limited, and well, Google. I'm obviously really revealing my age, right? So we had physical large desktops. Google was not available on mobile phones, and information was not easy to access. You guys have it all. In fact, I think probably where you need to do is find the time to focus, because the minute the mobile phone opens, there are 1,000 things that can, take our mind space, and take our time. So I would say experiment a lot, but equally experiment early and quickly. Then go deep into a few areas till you know where your passion is. And once you know your passion, I guess time flies, right? We don't have a sense of time as long as we're doing things that we really enjoy. I hope that food is that. But if you figure that it's not that, I mean, I would say get out and do whatever you enjoy. One life.
One life, absolutely. Go out, experiment, do new things. But our new generation is very impatient. So we have situations where people are jumping jobs every 6 months, 1 year, 2 years. Uh, let's talk about that for a minute as an HR professional, Maha. What's your advice? Because my sense is if you jump too much, and sometimes you jump for pennies, someone gives you 5,000 rupees extra and you sort of switch. How does that impact the career? What's your advice to students in terms of longevity in a job, especially the first job? Would love to hear your views on that.
I actually try to give more advice to organizations, including organizations I work for, because, talent, like the whole audience sitting here, is really our customer, So if they are impatient, how do we feed that impatience, And how might we as an organization give variety of experiences so that they don't have to go hungry and look elsewhere? Usually there is a trigger when people, jump. Yes, I would come to advice in a moment. My only advice would be it's the first 5, 7 years of your career, chase experiences, chase big brands or startup experiences that will give you, that'll build your value, and once your value is built, money will follow. So I would say don't go after small, well, like Atul said, pennies. But I would say don't even look at your first package. Look at what experiences will you get. And also, and you guys are all smart, right? One of the things that I know talent does is check with seniors who are working in the companies that, are coming to them saying, what kind of a place is this? What kind of exposures do they give you? Do those tests, speak to seniors, speak to, get as many industry exposures as you can so that will you get good ROI in terms of building your profile is the thing you need to test for. And organizations need to stand up to that test. If organizations are not standing up to that test, then they get the talent they deserve. So I would say impatience is a good thing, but don't be driven by dollars in the initial phases unless someone is paying you 10 times, then, let's discuss. Yeah.
I
Does
so agree. I mean,
does that resonate?
yeah, absolutely. I think one of the advice which I give to students, and I'm sure you'll agree with me, is that if the shit hits the roof, which means if you're really troubled, I mean, it's time to leave. Don't ever infringe on your values. If the organization is pushing you towards doing things that your values do not allow you to do, then it's time to quit. The second thing is, and I'd love to get your opinion, is that bosses are not permanent. If sometimes people leave because the boss is not very good, and sometimes I tell them to go and speak to the super boss, go and speak to HR. Your perspective on this, Maha?
No, I so agree. I'm chuckling and laughing because I shall not name the organization. But early in my career, I once left a job because I felt very humiliated by the manager. I was learning a lot of great experiences, but my immediate manager was the kind who would, you take your work to her and she would look at it and throw it on your face saying, this is shit. Pardon my language, okay? She'd say, haven't you done enough thinking? Now, the intent there was obviously to make us be more rigorous as we went through things. But, eventually your confidence was getting hit. And well, I also got a great opportunity with another company, which was broader. So A and B combined and I quit. Now, interestingly, after I quit, I got to know that 4 weeks later, that lady quit as well. And I was like, shucks, I needn't have quit. So yeah, I would completely agree, build. Let me step back. I would say as you get into industry, and at some point in time, I'm sure all of you will, build an ecosystem and a network of people who can be your sounding boards. They would be people who are your seniors, not necessarily your manager only. Secondly, yes, if there is an issue on respect or value clashes, you must talk about it to HR or the skip level manager, which is the manager's manager. But also, I think you all are a courageous lot, right? Sitting down with your manager, also saying, "Look, you did this. It had this kind of an effect on me. I'm sure that's not what you intended. Why did you do that?" Is also not a bad idea, especially if you're one step away from quitting. Sometimes you discover two things, one, the why, and two, you may be giving a huge gift to that manager who probably is not even aware of the impact of their style. I think those are my 3 or 4 reflections as I hear you, Atul.
Super. I'm going to now switch to a slightly more uh, technical discussion. And I would love to hear your views on, of course, tell us more about Mondelez. But more importantly, I would love to hear more about, how do you see the food industry in India and globally evolve? What are the challenges? What are the opportunities in food? What are the new trends which are happening? And who do you see as the players succeeding in food? I mean, there are food technology students here that want to be in a technical job at a firm like Mondelez, and they might be MBA students who might want to build a career in a food company like yours. So would love to, I'm sure the students would love to hear more about what's happening in the food industry and definitely about Mondelez.
Sure. Look, I mean, that's a lot, so I'll try and address maybe 2 or 3 things. And, as we get into interactions, if you guys have anything specific, happy to go deeper and chat. Food's an exciting space, right? I mean, personally, I am a foodie. Whenever I travel, I try, and I'm a vegetarian foodie. And I love desserts. I love spicy stuff. I love my chaat and I love my pad thai. So I mean, I love to experiment and try food. And the world is full of people who go to food for various things, right? Some people go to food for hunger. And that's one thing that, food technologists in the food industry is absolutely trying to solve for. Equally, there is a bunch of people who go to food for celebrations, specific moments. So at Mondelez, Mondelez is in the food broader industry, but we are not in the meals space. We are in a space which is called snacking. And we define snacking, Atul, as anything which is not one of the three main meals of the day. So anytime wherein you feel like consuming anything other than the main three meals, it's a snack. It could be nuts, it could be a chocolate, it could be a biscuit, or it could be a drink that you're having as you're stepping out from the gym or coming back from play, etc., etc.
So
So
what's your favorite
we say,
brand of Mondelez, Maha?
oh yeah, so my favorite brand is absolutely Cadbury Dairy Milk. In fact, it has a Maha bar, and I keep saying that is my personally branded bar, so which is a joke, obviously. Well, Mondelez quickly. I mean, for those of you who are not familiar with the organization, we are world's largest snacking company. We are headquartered in the US, and in India, one of our biggest brands is Cadbury and Five Star and Perk. And for those of you who prefer a glass of Bonvita in the morning, that's Mondelez as well, or Tang, the drink Tang. So I'm hoping you guys are smiling. We're also in the biscuit space. Oreo is our largest brand globally. And in Southeast Asia as well, Oreo, it's a biscuits heavy market. So we play in Oreo. So that's Mondelez. And Mondelez has this philosophy, which is called snacking made right, which says, we need to manufacture the right snack at the right moment, made the right way for our consumers. And what that really means is it talks about ingredients, sustainable sourcing, things like that, which is absolutely becoming more and more important. Secondly, it says that there is a specific snack at a specific moment that our consumers want. Sometimes they want an indulgent treat. Sometimes they want energy high sometimes, and that energy high could be, I want protein, and my son goes to the gym, he wants protein all the time, right? So sometimes there is a specific nutrient that you're looking out from that snack, and sometimes you actually are looking for nourishment. So what is the need, and what is that moment, and how might we have at least one snack for that moment, for all kinds of moments for our consumers, whether it's celebration, nutrition, hydration, the works. I think is really our ambition. Yes, I mean, back to your question on, what's the importance of the sector? Well, definitely in India, I think almost 20% of our GDP comes from the food sector, organized food sector. I'm not even talking about the unorganized, the guys who stand at the hawker centers, the railway stations selling, freshly made local snacks, which are so yummy and amazing in India. So it's a big sector. Now, what's happening in that sector? Honestly, I will love to hear from you all, right? You guys are deep into research, I know. But what I know, I would say is, there's a segmentation there. On one hand, the world is fighting hunger, and there are parts of the world where delivering nutrition and the right nutrition that can really help us thrive is important. And giving that at the right price so that it's affordable and people are not going hungry. On the other hand, health, is becoming so important. People are very conscious about what they're putting into, all of us are conscious what we put into our, into our mouth, because that defines our health, our well-being, etc. So I think well-being as a lever is becoming more and more important. In many ways, food is becoming bigger than pharma when it comes to well-being, because people say preserve your health before you need to get to popping a pill or having a medicine to solve for your disease, right? So that's the importance. And the third big thing that's happening in the food space is digital, and we can talk about it. As technology is coming into multiple spaces, right? Whether it's business or work, or I was talking about, right, access to knowledge and information on our phones. It's playing a very big role in how we understand the consumer through consumer insights. It's becoming big in terms of how we innovate and test, various food options, or how we even package and produce, or how do we preserve freshness. Fresh is becoming so important, right? So as we look at processing without losing freshness, the entire digital piece is becoming very important. We really enjoy in Mondelez some of our digitally printed chocolates, that people can personalize and give to their girlfriends and boyfriends. And, so I mean, it is literally, reshaping how we imagine how we want to serve our consumers. So digital is a big wave. And the last one, and I'll stop with that, is sustainability, right? Are we, I guess all industries are very, very conscious now on the impact on planet. And in Mondelez, we say, are we giving back to the planet more than we take from it? And sustainable sourcing of raw materials, sustainable packaging, without losing taste, texture, and quality of product is important. And then, it's all those fancy things, right? People want to get the taste of eating meat without eating meat. You want to have the taste of chocolate without those calories. And, for all those fancy people, there's another, that's another target segment. I'm saying fancy a little lightly, because I'm saying that's one part of the world dying of hunger, and the other part of the world is trying to kind of pay a premium to get all the experiences they want without it impacting, their health, etc. So it's such a exciting and booming space, right? And depending on which of these you get excited about, and I'm sure there is more that you guys can tell me about, but these are what form some of the conversations in the various leadership teams that I sit in that I'm happy to talk about.
It's an interesting point you brought about, and I'm going to go back into a discussion recently I had with the new global CEO of Starbucks, Lakshman Narasimhan, who happened to be a colleague of mine at McKinsey. And I called Starbucks coffee company, foods company. And he came back and looked at me and said, Atul, you're wrong. We see ourselves as a tech company. And he explained to me how tech is playing a big role in managing supply chain, identifying the right produce, and ensuring that a cup of coffee or Starbucks is exactly the same in every store across the world. And they've got thousands of them, of course. So you spoke about digital, you spoke about food, you spoke about sustainability. How does Mondelez see itself? Do you still see yourself as a snacking food company, or increasingly do you see a bigger role for tech coming in, backward integration into agriculture, or forward integration into supply chain, etc.? Or marketing, for example, do you see yourself as a marketing company? So how do you see yourself?
Oh, we are very clearly a snacking company. We absolutely do backward integrate, and our cocoa farms are one of our biggest. So our cocoa farms are not just ours. That's one of our investments into sustainability, and our cocoa farmers can sell their crop to anyone, But really proud of some of those bits. We are very particular about energy and how we leverage energy using solar panels, etc., etc. We are absolutely, I mean, it's very famous in Mondelez, especially in this part of the world. We say people join us for our brands and stay for our culture. So our brands is what makes my consumers smile, right? I mean, Mondelez, people are like, eh. The minute I say Cadbury, and there is even socially, the conversation changes. Toblerone, oh, okay, So then it brings a smile or gems, and people are smiling already. So yeah, I mean, I think we're very clearly a snacking company, and we're in the business of ensuring that our consumers have right snacks available to them. It is enabled hugely by our marketers, by our supply chain, and absolutely digital and technology is playing a very big role in terms of how we serve our consumer. But we are absolutely the business of snacking.
Wonderful. I'm just going to add to the students over here. I'm sure you've got lots of questions. So you could either put it on chat and I'll ask the questions to Maha on your behalf, or you can put your hand up towards the end and you can ask questions. I'm sure we can connect you to Maha. I think before I go on to a bunch of personal questions, getting to know you a bit better, Maha, I have a couple of more questions which I think will be of interest to the students. I'm sure you hire a lot of students from campus, from college. young postgraduates, undergraduates, technical MBA, etc. students. So, could you talk a bit about the type of roles that you'll hire? How does a typical career in your industry look like? And more importantly, what are the type of expectations that you have from students who recently joined and the type of skills that you expect them to have?
Absolutely. So look, I mean, so a food company, right? And obviously we have our own departments and verticals like any company. So there is research. And a lot of where food technologists go is really the R&D. So our global R&D is clustered by geography. And as far as Asia is concerned, or we call it AMEA, which is Asia, Middle East, and Africa. So AMEA's, R&D facilities are clustered in a few geographies. The chocolate research center is in Mumbai, India. The biscuits research happens between China and Singapore. And we also play, by the way, in gum and candy. So Halls is our product, and so is Trident, the gum. And the
So
gum.
before you go forward, let's do a small vote. Whichever student wants to get into the chocolate research center, I'm very excited. Put your hands up. How many of you are excited? Come on, everyone wants to get into chocolates, right? That's an exciting place to be. But I will also tell you, it's actually very difficult. I had a friend of mine years back, used to work in the supply chain for Cadbury's, and after 6 months, he told me that it's so difficult. He just hated chocolate. So anyway, I
So
think it just
that's
gets
sad.
over you. There's a law of decreasing marginal utility that comes up, I guess.
Oh,
Sorry,
okay. I
I
wish
got
that
into the.
happened to me. As I get into my 9th year with Mondelez, I can still happily eat bars of chocolates and love it. So I guess depends how much you love it. So yeah. Hmm.
Sorry, I interrupted your thought. Go ahead.
Oh, not at all. It was a fun interjection. So look, I mean, frankly speaking, in India, we do not hire undergraduates, and that's also the amazing demand supply equation we have in India, right? We have so much supply of talent that we then say, okay, a little more, expertise and experience. So we do hire food technologists, but usually who are postgrads. We also have some who have done their PhD, across our research facilities in Asia and beyond. And therefore, back to Atul's earlier question, right, which was about depth and breadth. So I was talking to, I personally do not handle HR for R&D in Mondelez, like I was telling, the team that was kind of getting me here. But I did speak to the R&D lead who partners us, saying, hey, I'm going to go and speak to this university. And what would be your advice for, the BTech food technology students? And his advice was, sometimes people look to broaden very early in their careers, and his guidance was, if research and if innovating in food is where your passion lies, make sure you go deep, so that there is credibility that you bring and you're able to differentiate, and people have a reason to take your point of view. Otherwise, food is a topic where everyone has an opinion, right? I mean, it's like when I cook at home, from my son to the helper to my mom, everyone has sometimes divergent opinions on how that should be made and what's good and what's not. But as a food technologist, you need to have deep logical reasons to say what should we get into, why, and of course leverage tech to kind of bring in both the consumer insight and options, in terms of palette, etc., etc. So his advice was go deep, and try and go as technical as you can before you get into broadening. So that's that.
So that's for
Now,
research, I guess, right? So in a research job,
yeah,
you're a specialist, you have to go very deep.
yes, yes,
Before
yes.
we go into other profiles, PhDs, right? Typically, a PhD would believe that I'll be a faculty, I'll be a teacher. Can you talk a bit about careers for PhDs in industry?
No, but we do have fair amount of PhDs in our research center.
Exactly.
Yeah. So I mean, we do have doctorate. There are sometimes people who've actually done industry experience and then decided to do their PhD, and therefore ensuring that the doctorate is not a theoretical doctorate, because what you don't want is a prof who's talking off a book, and it's not practical. So blending practicality and therefore the blend of your research experiences, coupled with a point of view that you're doing your thesis on is probably where what comes in most useful. Yeah, so that's what I would say to that question. But I'm going to jump to a few other segments where probably
Yes.
capability is going to be so important. Let's start with consumer insights. So we have consumer insights teams who classically are very good at inciting, speaking to the consumers. But typical consumer insight panels have a food technologist listening in, to interpret, if this is what the consumer is saying, they do not get, when they eat products or when we are sampling a new innovation, what are they really looking for? Sometimes, you need a little bit of salt in a chocolate to kind of get a little bit of balance going, can I put pineapple inside, a chocolate, and can I get the health? I mean, there's another company, not Mondelez, which is literally, doing, I think it's called Not or something like that, because they literally have chocolates which are not made from chocolate, that they're made of cauliflower. So, I mean, there's so much innovation going, and the consumer literally, there is a premium consumer wanting to invest in that. So, I think innovation and insights is a second track and a possible area to kind of get into. The third really is in manufacturing and supply chain, right? Looking at ensuring that packaging, processing is all done in a manner that preserves freshness without taking nutrient profile away or bringing down the nutrient profile. Or looking at, what might help improve profitability by looking at substitution, without impacting nutrient profile or taste. So as many of you know, I mean, there are many of our markets where there are strong regulations that we need to comply with. There is also a consumer trend around sugar, around salt, etc. So how might we preserve the taste and still manage to kind of improve the ingredient profile or lower the ingredient profile, right? So CDM, which is Cadbury Dairy Milk, has a 30% lower fat and sugar variant, right? For that kind of audience who wants that and is happy to pay a premium for that. Getting that taste right involved food technologists and partnering with folks like that. And of course, I mean, for those of you who are not from the food technology space, I hope I'm not boring you down. There is an entire set of careers that Mondelez offers, predominantly to MBAs, which is in the realm of sales, taking our products to the consumer, whether through traditional channels or modern trade. Modern trade is any of these malls and shops that we go to and buy, or e-commerce, right? Which is big and big and big now, especially even in tier 3 cities, not yet deep into rural India. So sales is a big, big place where we hire. Marketing, we have very few people. I mean, a lot of people get very attracted to Mondelez because they see the ad and they want to create the next ad. But we have very few people in marketing. I think there are 40 people across India. Even in Southeast Asia, I'll probably have 80 people doing marketing across all my 7 countries. So I think in that sense, it's an area where you can also get in. But for that, I think we're a bit, I don't know, I think for some reason we've been going to only select universities for that. And I think that's been something, by the way, we debate saying, are we therefore diverse enough, in terms of diversity of thought if we keep going to same universities? But now I'm rambling. So to summarize, I think there could be careers in research, there could be careers in insights, there could be careers in the end-to-end of supply chain, from procurement to packaging to manufacturing, or even logistics from preserving chocolates, for example, they need to be kept at a certain temperature, to ensure, or we build chocolates which are heat resistant chocolates, so how do you kind of improve the profile of that to improve profitability and taste profiles as a whole piece? Then there's sales, there's marketing, blah, blah, blah.
Well, of course, and then there are commercial functions, there is HR, of course, but those I guess are strategic functions, which are more support functions. I'm going to switch to a little bit about you as a person, Maha. So you've had a very successful career. Very clearly, you've spoken about your son. So you're a mother. So how do you? And when I look at the audience, there's so many girls over here. I mean, it looks like more than 50% are girls in the audience. So advise on how do you balance your personal life and professional life?
Okay, so firstly, delighted to know that 50% is women. I'm glad it's not more, and I'm not also glad it's not less. As a little anecdote, I mean, that matters to us at Mondelez as well. We have 50% women at our leadership team now in Southeast Asia. And not just gender diversity, we're trying to get neurodiversity. We're also trying to get nationalities, right? I mean, representation from all the consumers we serve. So, I mean, that's really the spirit of it. So glad to know that. And it's amazing how society is changing. You know, in our factory in Sri City, we have 50% women on the shop floor. And those women have gone back to their villages to buy the first fan for their homes, and they're called back into their schools, and they're encouraging more girls to study. So power to you, both boys and girls who are on this call. But I perhaps have a little bit of a extra soft corner for the women because culturally in many of the society that all of us are born in, there is a bit of a extra expectation for the woman to also take care of the home. God has biologically made us such that we bear the kid, so I think that's the reality. And how might we actually still succeed in our careers is a important one for us to define our own choice, and I have my school friends, who I met when I was in Delhi a few weeks ago. Some of them actually chose right after college to make babies early. I made babies later, one kid, I did that late. And I'm happy with my choice and they're happy with theirs. And they're super happy being proud moms, who use their skills to, get their focus it entirely on home and they're happy. So I would say know your happiness and decide to take your career in a manner that suits you and not what suits your parents or friends or society, because only you know what is good for you. And as you age, probably you'll realize more and more that eventually what matters is, are you happy? It doesn't matter. And eventually parents also come around to wanting to see you happy. So that's very large philosophical flaw before I get to some quick tips, okay, in terms of what it would take. I would say first, be clear on what you want to achieve and make it non-negotiable. Second, I would say don't try and do this alone, and I would say that to the boys and the girls, but a little more to the girls, especially as you marry, as you have babies. I mean, there is a whole ecosystem there, right? Get boys, please help change the diaper. Please share the load in terms of who gets up at night, to manage the baby. Leverage your entire broader family. Don't hesitate to outsource what can be outsourced. It took a lot of effort for me to convince my family that we should get a cook to come. They said, no, 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 the kitchen needs to be run by the bahu of the house. And I said, sure, the bahu of the house will run the kitchen some days, but I need help with chopping. I need help with this, or you guys come and contribute. So you got to negotiate your way through sometimes. You got to, I'm sure all of you read those books, right? Indra Nui and, Michelle Obama, they all say it takes a village. So empanel the whole village with you. The third thing I would say, again, boys and girls, is create sponsors around you. And those sponsors are friends, family, women, people you can talk to when you don't know, what's right, because none of us know what's right. Now, all of us figure as we go along. Then we get into sessions like this, we talk very intelligently about it. But when we are in the moment, we are also fumbling, figuring, trying things out, and also learning from others' experiences. So do all that. But if I had to say one thing, I would say don't try and do it alone. I don't know, Atul, if you have additional perspective.
I so agree. I think one of the things which I learned early in my career was the importance of mentors. And mentors are friends who need not be from the company or the organization you work in. The people that you can reach out to, whom you believe will give you honest advice. And I think you spoke about that. So I want to encourage my students to start thinking about mentors. They could be seniors of yours, there could be teachers, there could be family that you can trust. So that's a very important part. I think it's also important to have a role model, and I'm going to come to that, especially if you're a woman. And many organizations don't have that many role models because there are very few women right at the top. So finding that role model, the way you want to dress, I mean, these are big questions. How to address, right? Sometimes being too formal is also not good. Sometimes being informal is also not very good. What's the right balance, etc., etc., etc. So that's my question for you. Did you have a role model? Did you have a mentor as you think about your career over the last 20, 25 years?
Yeah, no, absolutely. And the thing with me is because I'm a hungry learner in general. Different people have come and taught me so many things. So in our Mondelez Mumbai office, there's a pantry boy I keep talking about. His name's Abhay. Abhay literally knows when someone would likely want their coffee or tea, how they like their tea. And this is all in his head, because he served us our tea and coffee. He knows that roughly 1 hour after lunch, I'll probably, go for my black coffee. And if I'm sitting in a meeting at that time, the person I'm sitting with, if that person is a green tea person, he would literally walk in and say, chai lao, to her and, get me my black coffee without even asking. So that is a role model for me in terms of consumer centricity. Literally, we say predictive analytics. The guy literally can predict, what we want when we want it, and that's consumer focus role model in that. I've been very blessed to have a bunch of people, and I call it my personal advisory board now, jokingly. But there are a bunch of people I can go and talk about struggles at work. I try and keep these mentors outside of my workplace so that one can talk even more freely, and therefore the importance of building your network. And it sounds so complicated right now. But what happens is as you work in companies, people you work with and you connect with, some of them quit and go, and sometimes you quit and go elsewhere. Staying in touch with some people who you feel care for you. And some of it is also, are you caring for others? Because, the world goes around. So are you giving back? And, sometimes the best mentoring comes from your teams, who may have gone and maybe doing other things. And, so have a set of people that can be a sounding board. I would actually extrapolate and say have that in personal life as well. Because as one grows, these things are all intertwined and interlinked, right? So good to kind of have a set of mentors and sounding boards. Also invest in friendships. I mean, somehow our educational system. I was very competitive. It really drills in us that you got to be the topper and you got to really study hard and win. But equally, I would say, education system now is getting so much so better because we talk about collaboration. Build that network that you have, all of you in the room, keep these friendships alive and, lean in on each other, in good times and bad. And that's probably something that will really help you as you grow further as well.
Fantastic. So wonderful. Let's come back to skills because I think students want to hear about it. You spoke about technical skills. I think those are pretty obvious. What else should students focus on in college and university? What are the skills they should look at?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I would say absolutely. If you can build a hunger to learn, nothing like it, because if you have curiosity and if you have keenness to, and when I say learn, I don't mean attend the class and take notes. I mean, if you have curiosity, saying, oh, today, I don't know if you have a mess or a canteen in the, in the university, but if the mess food is very nice, why is it so? What did they do? Or, oh, I'm reading something about Israel today. What is behind it? Now utterly unrelated to food technology, utterly unrelated to management. But if you have curiosity, and if you want to keep learning something new, I think that is probably one of the biggest things that can help you in life. That's the one thing I keep trying to tell my son also, to stay curious, because that is a big, big thing. The second one, I would say, yes, tech is becoming a very integral part of our lives, So if we start more and more and more looking at how tech can integrate into our lives, sometimes it can be a fun thing to do as well. But try and build skills in simple tech. Now Chat GPT is the most recent thing, right? Generative AI. Even if that is not part of your curriculum, reading up on it, playing with it, not just stopping at watching an Insta reel, but trying to make an Insta reel about it. And, these can be some cool ways you can play with the new things that are happening around you. I would say, I don't know how many of you are on Insta or on Twitter. Be mindful on which handles you follow, and some good handles can actually give you. Actually, I stopped reading newspapers long back because I don't like to read about politics. I find it very negative. So I do all my reading on Twitter and Instagram because some of the best, if you follow the right things and the right handles, there's a whole wealth of information that you can now get. So yeah, I think those are a few thoughts.
Absolutely. And I think you spoke about social media. My thought to students would be very careful what you put on your social media because you're leaving traces behind. And increasingly, HR is also following you when they'll be hiring you. They'll be looking at if you have done anything stupid in your life, right?
You make HR
Probably not
sound like a
Mondelez, but
private
I think some
detective,
people.
but I'm joking
I
now.
know some firms are doing that.
I'm joking now. No, but it's interesting, right? I mean, I had someone send me a CV the other day, which was a video CV. It was literally a 1.5 minute video about what that person does and why we should hire him. So it was interesting, right? So people use it. It's like fire, right? I can let the fire float around and it can burn things down. But if I use the fire well, I can cook with it. I can use it to get us warm. Social media's like that. Use it well.
Okay, let's switch to something more interesting. Your most embarrassing moment in work life.
Oh, I'll have to think. There's so many. I'll have to pick a good one. A good one that'll entertain you all, right? Yeah, I mean, so when I moved to Mondelez, I don't know if it's the most embarrassing, but it was very embarrassing. So in Delhi, right, which is where I largely lived and grew, winters we wear boots, right, with jeans and boots. So and Bombay kind of is a little more formal, understated. So Mondelez largely had most people wearing formal shoes, and women were largely in salwar kameezes or business suits. And I go to office wearing jeans and boots, and I was literally doing that oblivious, saying this is who I am. Till I got to know that I go by Hunter Wali, because I was literally walking around in boots, and my team told me that, and I was rolling in laughter. And then I was very embarrassed, saying, "Shucks, these guys are so tolerant. They didn't tell me this." And the good thing is, Mondelez India now has many people wearing jeans, and I stopped wearing boots to work. So
But I
that's
think it's
one.
an important message for students, especially when you're interviewing with companies, understand the culture, do a bit of research. Apart from the technical knowledge, I think if you understand what they're looking for, understand the culture, I think you can be more aligned. I think it's the chances for getting hired increases. But I had a very interesting incident when I joined McKinsey. My first manager was an American from Stanford, and for anything small, he would give a high five. He would just give a high five. And I came from Solon, and I thought that's the norm. And I remember once my global CEO of McKinsey, very very big man, was visiting us, and I was in the Bombay office. He was sitting on his desk, and suddenly he had his hand like this, and I thought he was asking for a high five. I went and did a high five on Rajat Gupta, and he thought, you should have seen his face. It went white because there was someone passing by at the back, and he was just saying hi to him. And here I was, a young associate, giving him a high five.
Such a cool
So we have
story.
all those very interesting incidences and embarrassing moments that we all remember. But I think the reason is, I think for students, there's a lot of fun also that happens. It's not just about working hard. It's also about working with fun. I think that's the critical part of being successful, being happy. So successful people are happy. Happy people are successful. Successful people need not be happy. I think that's the mantra that you need to have. Becomes
Yeah.
very, very, very important.
Yeah, that's a rather cool story, right? I mean, all of us are chuckling as we are hearing you, Atul. And as I hear that you're from Solon, I mean, maybe I also want to say something very close to my heart to everyone on the team. I'm sure that many of you are coming from simple households, sometimes not from the top few cities in the country. I mean, I'm hoping that when you look around in corporate India or in global corporations, you would see many people who are super successful. So don't ever be shy of where you come from. Don't try and hide it. be who you are, is something I would really say very strongly. Never feel shy about your roots. Just be you.
Yeah, I'll also say that, students who come from smaller towns, from more humble backgrounds, I think you have more fire in the belly.
So
So
do.
just don't let people who come from or the so-called Boston Brahmins, push you over. So don't become a pushover, especially in the corporate world. So let's talk about the corporate world versus a new world which is emerging, which is the entrepreneurial world, startups.
Totally.
So what do you think? If I'm a student, should I do a startup right upfront after college, or should I first get experience in a quality corporate and then do a startup? What's your suggestion?
Yeah. Again, I'm going to laugh. My son wanted to drop college and be an entrepreneur. The funny thing was, I asked him, so what's your business idea? He says, I don't have an idea. I'll figure it. So I told him, buddy, you can't. I mean, there are many successful entrepreneurs who are school dropouts, but they didn't become entrepreneurs because they dropped out of school. So, I mean, it's just a funny personal anecdote. I would say, look, if you have a great idea, which you think is absolutely differentiated, I would say feed that idea, and any entrepreneurship, it's always great to try out early in life than try out very late in life. Having said that, personal view, and again, the jury is out there. My personal view would be first join some corporates and get free experience. Actually, you're getting paid to get experience, right? So join a company which is playing in the space that you want to be an entrepreneur in. Learn at their expense. Understand the consumer at their expense. Understand how that business works. Understanding, in Hindi, and I don't know if many of you are familiar with Hindi. I'm hoping most of you are. I used to say dhanda kaise chalta hai, you need to understand where are you putting the money and where is the money coming out. What is profitability and how does one make a business profitable? For that, you need to understand how the money cycle works. You need to understand how the hard stuff. So even if you're joining the R&D function, no one will stop you to say, if you say, hey, I want to spend one day, I'll do this will get done, but I want to spend a Saturday following a salesperson, or I want to sit with a finance person to. So I would say learn at the expense of an organization while getting paid, then start your startup and do it after 2-3 years of figuring, how that business is run. Entrepreneurship is a cool thing, and it's a great idea. Equally, I think people say that recession is coming, right? Winter's coming. So a lot of people say recession is coming, and as worries globally about recession kick in, the entrepreneurial scene is getting less and less attractive to talent. Again, I keep telling businesses, including mine, that we need to have the ethos of a startup inside our company so that people want to join us. And not, why do people want to go and do a startup? Because they have freedom, they can experiment and try their ideas, and we need to give that and create that ecosystem inside. So that's my advice to corporates. But my advice to
You,
you all
you,
would be try and get the experience first, 2-3 years at least, then do your startup. No, it's a very crowded world. It's not always as sexy as we think about it. So just like you've invited me, I'm sure you've invited some entrepreneurs. You need to be okay with failure. You need to understand that to get funding as a startup, बहुत पापड़ बेलने पड़ते हैं, right? So you got to really go after investors. You got to kind of get that funding, and then you got to ensure profitability while still having your passion there, right? And I'm really hoping some of you become that entrepreneur. And then for those of you who don't, there is also corporate life. And those of you still don't, I mean, you can be happy doing whatever you are. Stay healthy and happy is important.
thank you, Mahalakshmi. One inspiration can change a life. My inspiration came from a talk like this where Arun Chowri spoke to us actually at IIT Kanpur, and it changed my life, not just mine, but a couple of other students. So hopefully there are some people sitting in this audience who've suddenly got this goose pimples, suddenly got that one aha idea coming out of this discussion. And that's the mission of Shulani, getting you exciting people with diverse backgrounds, people who've done something significant in life, You can listen to them, find out your role model that you could go out and change your lives, implement, and become successful. You are the future of India, and if you succeed, India succeeds. And all of us, I can assure you, whether it's Mondelez or Airtel or any other company, are in the business of making you successful, not making you fail. And that's the role of HR. So be brave, be fearless, and go out and win the world. Because if you're successful, like I said, Mondelez will be successful, India will be successful, and the world will be a better place. So thank you once again, Mahalakshmi. I'm definitely going to come and meet you in Singapore. You're very charming, and hopefully I can get my goodies pack of chocolates when I come to meet you. Look
Totally,
forward to being
totally.
in touch.
Likewise.
Thank
Thanks,
you very
Atul.
much.
Thanks for
And
having
I know
me,
it's
and
late
thanks
for you,
everyone.
Friday evening, and good night.
Good night. Thanks, folks.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Okay, guys, one moment, please, since you've been such a patient audience.